Welcome back to the deep dive. So if you're a fan of Jane the Virgin, and honestly, who isn't? It's just this amazing mix of heart, humor, and these absolutely wild plot twists.
Whew, completely wild.
It's the kind of show that just hooks you, It spins you around, and half the time you're left thinking, how did they even think of that?
Exactly.
Today, we're taking that great stack of sources you sent over, and we're not just, praising the show. We're really going to dissect its cultural genius, try to unpack some of those deeper meanings, and hopefully uncover those insights that, make it more than just good TV.
That's right. Our mission here for this deep dive is really to explore how Jane the Virgin isn't just about a telenovela. It's kind of a global cultural thing in its own right.
Right.
We'll be looking at how it both embraces and kind of subverts the traditional Latin American telenovela format.
Okay.
And then its role in globalization, we'll use Apador's theory of cultural flows for that.
Oh, interesting.
And also its portrayal of Latinidad, race, gender, sexuality, which is, nuanced, but sometimes kind of problematic too.
Yeah, complex stuff.
So essentially, we're giving you the shortcut to understanding the bigger cultural impact of this really captivating series.
Awesome. So let's jump right into the core of it, the show's DNA. Its telenovela roots. Now, for anyone who's maybe seen some Latin American TV, telenovelas, they're intense, dramatic, often way over the top.
Definitely.
Traditionally aired 5-6 days a week, and usually have a set ending, maybe around 120 episodes. So what exactly did Jane borrow from that tradition?
Well, the sources make it pretty clear Jane the Virgin basically raided the telenovela trope closet. We're talking everything. Evil twins, plural.
Yes.
Complicated love triangles, often with that stark rich versus poor thing going on.
Classic.
Big family secrets, obviously.
Yeah.
Dramatic injuries, unexpected deaths. And, of course, the big one. The accidental artificial insemination that starts it all.
The inciting incident, yeah.
Right. And it even uses magical realism, which is such a staple in Latin American lit and culture.
Oh, the magical realism. I love that when, inanimate objects talk to Jane.
Yeah. Or mark a turning point. It feels so natural in the show's kind of whimsical tone.
It really does. And the narrator, he feels like part of the family almost.
Totally.
And he often steps in to explicitly say, hey, this is a telenovela thing. Basically giving us viewers a little cultural lesson as we watch.
Exactly. It educates while entertaining.
But while it's soaked in those traditions, Jane also deviated quite a bit from the standard formula, didn't it? What made it feel more westernized.
That's a really key point. Unlike those daily telenovelas, Jane aired just once a week over its 5 seasons.
Right, standard U.S. format.
Yeah. So if 100 episodes got spread out over years, not just a few months, and the fact it got renewed for a 5th season suggests it wasn't quite as rigidly predetermined as a classic telenovela might be.
Makes sense.
But kept the spirit. Episodes are chapters. Each one ends with that famous "to be continued."
Love that.
Just like a page-turner novel.
And the visuals, those little motifs are so clever, like the white leaves falling when Jane kisses someone she truly loves.
Or that specific guitar riff when a loved one shows up.
Yeah, instant emotion. Or the glowing orange heart on her chest.
Right. It's not just pretty. It's consistent visual storytelling. It echoes how telenovelas build that cohesive, almost like mythic world.
Spot on.
And this blend, this adaptation, really leads to its westernized feel. Ben Silverman, the executive producer, was pretty upfront about it. He wanted it to be an homage to the telenovela, but still uniquely American and play to a general market.
Okay, so a conscious decision.
Definitely. And if you compare it to the original Venezuelan show, Juana la Virgin, the sources say Jane uses a much brighter color palette.
Yeah, it pops.
And a significantly faster pace.
Yeah.
Catering to that, what the source calls an American need for speedy storytelling.
That sounds about right. We do like things to move quickly, but what really struck me in the sources was the language choice. Mostly English, but Alba, the grandmother from Venezuela, speaks Spanish almost all the time, even when Jane or X reply in English. And that's not just like a gimmick. It feels so real for bilingual families.
It really does. It makes it relatable for Hispanic viewers, and then subtitles help everyone else follow along. Super smart.
Yeah.
So this whole mix, the pacing, the language, the schedule, it creates what the sources call a polycentric, westernized telenovela.
Polycentric, okay.
Yeah. Think of it like taking a global recipe, the telenovela, but tweaking it with local American ingredients and cooking methods.
Yeah.
It's familiar, but also distinct. the sort of localized or de-globalized version of this global thing.
That's a fantastic way to put it. And speaking of global things, this is where it gets really interesting, right? How does a show like Jane become a way to understand globalization itself?
Yeah.
Let's bring in Arjun Appadurai's theory, the five scapes.
Yeah, Appadurai's framework is perfect here. So first up is the ethnoscape. That's about the movement of people. Alba's story is a prime example. She immigrates from Venezuela, partly due to shame over premarital sex, right? Her journey, even though fictional, mirrors the real experiences of so many immigrants. It grounds the show.
Definitely. Then the technoscape, technology moving fast.
Exactly. The internet is huge here. It lets Jane travel instantly across borders via streaming. Netflix is key.
Right.
But what's interesting is physical DVDs were still a thing too, shipped to places maybe without great internet, so its reach was broad, technologically speaking, both high-tech and low-tech almost.
Okay, covering all bases. And that connects to the finance-scape, money flow.
Directly. We pay for Netflix or for the channel broadcasting it. That money flows back to producers for licenses. It's a clear, global movement of capital, all tied to this one show.
Makes sense. And the mediascape, that's the distribution itself.
Yep. Platforms like Netflix, obviously, but also traditional TV channels worldwide. The sources mentioned Net5 and SBS9 in the Netherlands, for example.
Wow.
These platforms spread the show globally, exposing all sorts of audiences to the cultures Jane represents. Netflix's global deals were really pivotal in this. It wasn't just U.S. audiences seeing this.
It became a truly global phenomenon.
Exactly. And finally, the ideascape. This is about the flow of ideologies, beliefs, images.
Okay, like ideas traveling.
Precisely. Think about the Villanueva women. Alba's strict Catholic views, premarital sex is a sin, church is vital. That directly shapes Jane's whole virginity plotline.
Right, the core premise.
Then Giamora, the next generation, she's more relaxed, right? She's a Jane Young. Jane herself tries to honor Alba's promise, but is clearly less rigid. You see that generational shift in beliefs. And beyond the family, you see the writer's own ideologies coming through too. Normalizing homosexuality, discussing abortion openly. These are contemporary ideas flowing through the narrative.
So putting it all together, Jane the Virgin isn't just like a fun show that happened to get popular globally.
Not at all.
It's actually part of globalization. It's both a result of it and it contributes to it moving media, tech, money, ideas all around the world.
Perfectly put. It shows how interconnected our entertainment and global forces really are, often in ways we don't even notice.
No. Okay, now let's peel back another really important layer. Latinidad, gender, and stereotypes in the show.
Yeah, this is crucial.
It came out in 2014, right? Which, was a time of pretty intense anti-immigrant rhetoric in the U.S.
Definitely.
So having 3 Latina main characters across generations, Jane, Xiomara, Alba, that felt really significant. Visible representation matters.
Hugely. And the sources point out how the show actively tried to push back against common stereotypes.
No.
Well, it avoided those tired fish-out-of-water plots.
Right.
Where Latinx characters are just awkward outsiders.
Right.
And it didn't rely on racial or ethnic jokes to define who the characters were. Instead, it actually took a political stand sometimes. Remember Alba's near-deportation storyline?
Oh, yeah, that was tense.
And they literally put the hashtag immigration reform on screen. That's pretty direct. An educational moment, as the sources call it, baked right into the drama.
That is powerful. Subtle but clear. Yet, even with those good intentions, Gina Rodriguez, who plays Jane, she faced backlash, right? For not being Latina enough.
Yeah, that whole thing, people critiquing her Spanish or suggesting her heritage was just like a marketing tool.
Which just shows, it highlights that false idea that there's only one way to be Latinx, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's the myth of a monolithic identity. Rodriguez's response, which sources mention, was all about emphasizing the diversity within the community.
Right.
Saying, basically, individuals define their own heritage, and unity is more important than these narrow external definitions trying to divide people.
A really important point. And the show itself, it wove in so many authentic markers of what the sources call pan-Latinidad, like the language thing we talked about.
Alba speaking mostly Spanish, Jane code switching.
Yeah.
It captures that generational dynamic navigating multiple cultures.
Yeah.
And it touches on real issues like language loss across generations or the politics of speaking English in the U.S.
And the immigration storylines, too. Alba being undocumented, the threat of medical repatriation. That's not just drama.
No, it reflects the real anxieties and complexities for mixed status families. It really puts a human face on these big policy issues for the audience.
Though the sources do note that Michael, the white cop, kind of swoops in to fix it, the white savior critique.
Right, that's part of the complexity, too. It wasn't perfect.
What about other cultural markers? Music.
Oh, yeah, music is huge. They featured big Latin artists, Juanes, Paulina Rubio, David Bisbal. Sometimes they even performed on the show.
I remember that.
And references to things like the Calle Ocho Festival in Miami. It just enriches the world, brings that specific cultural flavor to a global audience.
Nice. And the telenovelas within the telenovela.
Yes. The Villanueva women watching The Passions of Santos. It's this shared cultural practice, right? Something that connects different Latinx nationalities through media and language.
And again, the narrator steps in to explain tropes, like getting stuck in an elevator.
Right. Acting as that cultural translator again.
And religion, Catholicism specifically.
Yeah.
It's deeply embedded, isn't it? Especially for Alba and Jane.
Totally. Jane being a pregnant virgin, the St. Jane stuff, Virgin de Guadalupe references, pre-Cana.
Yeah.
It's all woven in. Even Jumara, who's less devout, still respects their faith. It's central to their identity.
Okay. But this brings us to a major criticism raised in the sources.
The dichotomy.
Yeah, despite all this nuance about Latinidad, the show gets critiqued for reinforcing that problematic virgin whore dichotomy, using religion to frame sexuality in a really specific way.
Exactly. Let's break that down.
Yeah.
Jane is positioned as La Virgin. She's chaste, pure, obedient, constantly compared to the Virgin Mary.
Right.
And the sources point out how often divine intervention seems to stop her from having sex, which kind of denies her actual sexual agency. It prioritizes the ideal over her choice.
Interesting point. And then Shimara is the flip side, La Puta.
That's the criticism, yeah. She's framed as sexually deviant, hot-headed, often in revealing clothes. She doesn't follow the strict religious rules, supports abortion, had unprotected sex.
Okay.
And she struggles with the sacrificing mother role, isn't always taken seriously. It reinforces a kind of judgmental view of female sexuality that isn't virginal.
And Petra. She's not Latina, but she fits an archetype too.
Yeah, La Malvada,
Yeah.
the manipulator. The sources frame her as the vamp stereotype. Lies, manipulates, uses sex for money and power. Her spirituality is kind of vague, only serving her own needs. It's another very specific, often negative female archetype.
Wow. And Luisa, Rafael's sister.
She gets tagged as La Lesbiana Loca, the crazy lesbian. Her non-traditional spirituality shamans, ayahuasca, combined with her sexuality gets her labeled crazy, even institutionalized.
Yikes.
And her sexual encounters, often shown through a male gaze, which again limits her agency and plays into stereotypes.
So how does this compare to how the men's sexuality is portrayed? Does it reinforce these gender norms? Take Rogelio.
Rogelio is the glamorous womanizer, right? Almost animalistic sexual energy, but his past cheating is mostly forgiven, kind of laughed off.
Yeah, he's lovable despite it.
Then Raphael is the former playboy, rich playboy. History of being impulsive, maybe even violent, promiscuous. Lack of self-control is implied.
Okay.
But then you have Michael, the white detective. He's presented as the opposite. Orderly, self-controlled, patient, respects Jane's boundaries. He's the ideal of self-discipline.
Ah, I see the contrast.
And the sources really critique this. They argue that the Latino masculinities, Rogelio, Rafael, get racialized as hypersexual or deviant compared to Michael, the white ideal.
That's a strong critique.
And ultimately, the women, especially Jane, seem to have the least sexual agency. Their choices are constantly filtered through these religious or societal judgments.
And it reinforces traditional gender roles in other ways, too.
Yeah, subtly sometimes. Like Alba or Rogelio's mom, Liliana, telling Jane to put a man's needs first. Liliana literally says, a good woman always puts a good man first. And Raphael just assumes he'll be the breadwinner and Jane the primary caretaker, which taps right into her fears about being a single mother.
So yeah, definitely a lot layered in there, both positive representation and some problematic reinforcements.
That's complicated.
Okay, speaking of complicated narratives, let's talk about the meta stuff. Because Jane the Virgin is so self-aware.
Oh, absolutely.
It's presented as a telenovela based on a novel based on real life. That gives it so much freedom.
It does. And that meta-ness really blew up with maybe the biggest twist of all. Michael coming back from the dead.
Yeah.
With amnesia.
Oh my God, yes. The fandom went wild.
Completely. It sparked so many theories. Some fans thought, okay, maybe Jane, as the writer in the show, made up the amnesia for her novel to give Michael a happy ending. Kind of like that Roseanne twist.
Ah, interesting meta theory.
Others thought maybe it was Jane processing marriage after loss or just adding drama.
And the producers, what was their likely goal?
Well, from a production view, it's classic telenovela, right? Return from the dead, amnesia, Maximum drama, a huge jaw-dropping moment, and one last big obstacle for Jane and Raphael.
But the fan reaction was really divided, wasn't it? Intense debates.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of fans felt it just invalidated Jane's whole journey of grief and moving on with Raphael. Made Raphael seem like second best.
Yeah, I can see that.
Some called it reductive to widowers, or even a character assassination of Michael, just forcing this sad love triangle.
Ouch. But there were defenses, too.
Definitely. Some argued it was actually needed to prove Jane chose Raph now, for real, even with Michael back, to cement their meant-to-be status.
Okay, so proving the final choice.
And others just embraced it as powerful, over-the-top drama, the kind of thing only a telenovela could pull off.
Right.
And what's really insightful, I think, is how this whole thing highlighted different audience expectations. Traditional telenovela viewers often value that dramatic journey, even if the end is known. But maybe American audiences are more focused on unpredictability, the love triangle tension.
That makes a lot of sense. The twists really hit those different expectations head on.
Exactly.
Whew. Okay, and that whirlwind brings us, I think, to the end of another deep dive.
Quite the journey.
We've really gone through it, how Jane the Virgin uses telenovela tropes, but makes them its own. How it plugs into global cultural flows via Appadurai's scapes. And how it tackles these really complex issues of Latinidad, gender, and sexuality, the good and the more complicated parts, including those big narrative choices and fan reactions.
Yeah, this deep dive really shows you, I hope, how one TV show, even one that seems light and fun on the surface, can be this incredibly rich lens.
Totally.
A way to understand global culture, media's power in shaping identity, and that ongoing conversation we have about representation and storytelling. It's way more than just a show. It's a cultural artifact that gets people talking.
Absolutely. So, as you think about all this, here's a final thought to chew on. In our world, which is so shaped by global media, how do shows like Jane the Virgin ones that both celebrate and critique cultural identities, how do they influence how we understand belonging?
Good question.
And maybe what responsibilities do creators have when they're making these stories for audiences that are increasingly diverse and connected all over the globe?
Lots to think about there.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us on The Deep Dive.